Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Fatihah binti Hasnan and my matrix number is 053471. And so the title for our research is Challenges Faced by UNISZA TESL Students in Improving Their Speaking Competence. So firstly, English has become the international language and world most speaking language due to the usage of it in discussing business and trade, also technological and academic communications. So as a result of that, our education has started to enhance the usage of English among the Malaysian. So as a result of that, we are required to learn English officially starting from primary school until secondary school. So what will people get from our research is the problems that students face in order to improve their speaking skills. Secondly, the factors that affect the learning process of English. And lastly, our research are presenting the viewpoints from the UNISZA TESL student itself. Next, problem statement. The issues that we would like to unfold is that students are still afraid to speak in English despite they have learned English for 11 years, which is 6 years in primary school and 5 years in secondary school. So we have discovered some of the reason, which is they are lack of linguistic input. Students has less vocabulary and grammar knowledge and that can make them a proficient speaker. Therefore, they are being afraid of making mistake. Next, the unsupportive culture and environment at school. We can see that there is no culture and environment at school that support the student for being familiar with the English speaking culture. Therefore, when they are not familiar, they will be awkward and afraid to speak in English. Next, the objective of our research are firstly, to investigate the challenges faced by the students in order to develop their speaking skills. Next, to explore the factors that prevent students from improving their speaking skills. Lastly, to discover the level of competency for each student. Next, for our research questions are, firstly, what are the factors that suppress the students from learning language effectively? Secondly, what are the challenges that affect the process of English language learning? Lastly, what are the methods used to adapt with the problems occur? Next, the significance of study. Our research can help the students to recognize their problems that they might consciously or unconsciously repeat during the English learning process. Second, our research can help the teachers to identify their students' weaknesses and find a method that can help to fill their students' need. And lastly, we can help the parents to realize their children's problems in learning English so that they can give an appropriate support to their children. That's all for chapter 1. Thank you.
So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurufana Akila binti Mazlan and my matric number is 053528. So, I'm going to explain briefly about chapter 2, which is literature review. And for my part, I will explain more about the theoretical framework and also the theory part. So, in theoretical framework, we are going to put briefly about the approach and also the theory that we use in our study and also somehow link it to our study. So, in theoretical framework, we use second language acquisition as our theory because a second language acquisition is actually learning a new target language after having a concrete first language. So anyone at any age can learn the second language after a first language is already established, but it will take some time and practice. So in this research, we will be focusing on the acquisition learning hypothesis, which is under the part of SLA theory. So actually, language acquisition is an unconscious process where language will be acquired naturally, like a child born in American home to English-speaking parents learns the language through language acquisition. So next, for the approach that we actually have picked up, which is somehow linked to our study, is communicative learning teaching. So according to David Noonan, CLT happen when the learners learn how to communicate through interacting in second language and focus not only on the language but also the learning process and personal experience. So we believe that as a students need to be exposed to the target language, which is English, more by creating safe environment and providing more opportunities and practicing speaking competence, because it also not only help to develop speaking competence but also develop listening, reading and writing in English. Besides, CLT approaches also are more likely to be presented in a situation or context that require the students to have the communicative purposes like games and also role play. In other words, communication and interaction is important role in engaging the students with the target language. That is some of the reason why we choose the theory and also the approach. So for the theory part, as I have mentioned before, we are using second language acquisition theory, which is quite relevant to the objective of this study, which is emphasizes on how students acquire their speaking competence for the second language. So we choose acquisition learning hypothesis, which is apart from the SLA theory. The acquisition learning hypothesis is the most subconscious process in learning target language, and also quite similar with the process that children undergo when they acquire their first language. This means that the learners will acquire the target language naturally rather than learning it consciously. So this proves that the effective way in learning new target language is by learning it naturally and consistently.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Dofara Akila binti Roslan and my metric number is 053592. I'm going to explain about chapter 2, 2.3 and 2.4. In order to support our theory, here is an approach that related with the theory, which is communicative language teaching or CLT. It is an approach that focuses on developing learners' communicative skills in a meaningful context. Savignan believed that a new innovative way of teaching English as a second language is paved by CLT, as it deals with the interactive nature of communication. The natural way to acquire the target language is through the communication by using the target language. As an ESL student, it is somehow really helpful to use this approach, as it will help students enhance their speaking competence by practicing the language, especially when using it in the classroom. Communicative language teaching promotes the participation of the students with the classroom activity collaboratively. The goal for his approach is more likely to emphasize on learning through interaction in the second language. 2.4 Recent Studies. The first study is a research by Dia Aris Fitrani, Rahayu Aprilaswati, and Wardah. They highlighted about the linguistic problems, which is grammar, as the main problems. This research involved 30 students from the third semester of English study student. The data collected through questionnaire. From this study, they found out that these students showed the lack of grammatical structure in their speech. So this study can be related with our study, as the lack of grammatical knowledge can impact the difficulties in speaking competence. The next one is the study by Dr. Ahmad Mahir An-Nakhala. This study aim is to identify the problems with oral English skills of English language students in Al Quds Open University. The data has been collected through interview of 14 English students. This study has reported that student psychology, such as anxiety and lack of confidence, as the dominant problem that lead to speaking competence problems. This finding is linked with our study, as psychology problem can also be one of the most difficulties reasons that prevent ESL students to improve their speaking competence. The last one is the research about difficulties facing by the student in English language student by Al-Qahtani Mofareh from King Khalid Military Academy, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The data were collected through questionnaire that distribute to 100 to 150 participants. In this study, he found that poor inadequate vocabulary, poor linguistics formulation, and low knowledge of grammatical structure is the main problem faced by the students. This research also can be related with our study, as we also want to identify the factors behind the difficulties faced by the students when communicating in English.
Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is Nur Aziati binti Ayubhan and I am from TESL 3A. My metric number is 053522. So in this third chapter, I'll be explaining the methodology of this study. Generally, it reviews the approach that being used, which is the quantitative approach, which resulting as an easiest method in obtaining and analyzing the data. So specifically, a set of questionnaires will be used whereby it consists of 3 sections. So the first section is the basic information of the participants. The second section will be the problem that the participants been facing. Precisely, a Likert scale questions will be inserted in this section. So they just need to choose either they are strongly agree, neutral, disagree, or strongly disagree towards the statement and the questions given. And the last section would be about the solutions that they need to come out with to overcome the problem itself. We expected to involve around 30 students of UNISZA TESL students. Therefore, it will be easier for us to spread the questionnaire as they are also a friend of us. However, an official approval are needed to conduct this study, and once it has been approved, the questionnaires will be spread through WhatsApp group, and the participants will be given around 3 days for the submission. It will be analyzed by using Microsoft Excel, and the exact data will be attained through it. And last but not least, to recapitulate, this study is conducted in a hope to aid the ESL speakers or any students in upgrading their speaking skills, as well as overcome their fear to speak confidently in English. With that, I thank you.